Martin King with Philip Morris International. Thank you for joining us on the Illinois channel. You are the CEO, and you have a new technology that I think a lot of people would want to hear about. It is impacting, of course, smoking, which is the industry that you're in. But rather than me talking about it, why don't you give us the overview of this technology I believe you refer to as IQOS?
That's right, Terry. It's called IQOS, and this is about heating tobacco rather than burning it. And the reason that's important is that combustion or burning is what is the cause of most of the problems with smoking cigarettes. And when you can heat tobacco and keep it below the combustion level, you can greatly reduce the formation of the harmful constituents in the tobacco. And the FDA has recently reviewed this product. They had allowed it on the market about a year ago, a little more than a year ago, in the United States, and they reviewed it more recently over the summer for a modified risk designation, and that came through, where the formation of the constituents is found to be less than in burning cigarette.
I'm going to bring a photograph up here. This is the device, and I think people can read this, but it says here the tobacco stick. It heats up the tobacco, and as I have understood this from what I read, uh, in essence, what this is doing is unlike a cigarette, which consumes all of the ingredients. This just heats up the tobacco. It doesn't burn it. And tell us, if you would, why does that make such an important difference to the smoker?
Well, if a smoker switches completely to this product, they will be exposed to less or much greater reduced levels of the harmful constituents that come from in a normal cigarette when it's burned. And while at the same time getting some flavor of tobacco and also, having satisfaction that comes with it. This product has been launched in over 60 countries around the world, and it is proven to be very successful in converting adult smokers who would otherwise continue to smoke out of smoking and into a far better choice for them. We have a lot of experience with this product around the world. It's now being commercialized in the United States by our former parent company, although we're two separate companies now. Our former parent company, Altria and PMUSA in the United States, are commercializing this product, and we're very glad that it's been reviewed and received this modified risk tobacco authorization by the FDA.
One of the things I found interesting, first of all, that this, I'm just learning about it, but it I think came to market initially in Japan and Italy around 2014, so 6 years ago. So you might say it's had a impact around other nations where you've developed some of the research. I was also interested to find out that apparently you spent as a company over $7 billion developing this product. That's which would indicate obviously quite a lot of testing, development. Has it come out as you have? And let me, if I might just quickly bring this up, 15 million users worldwide. Again, it's coming now to the United States. Or 11 of those 15 million, 11 million, about 73%, have completely switched from cigarettes. And I think that would be, as I understand it, the primary point, that the FDA gave authorization for this to be sold in the United States, but under the proviso that you're not going after new smokers, you're not going after people that are former smokers, and you're certainly not going after children, as we sometimes have seen products marketed to them that maybe shouldn't be.
You're absolutely right. That is critical that any of these new products focus in on current adult smokers and adult smokers who otherwise would continue smoking. And we're very careful about that around the world. We have great track record. You mentioned Japan and Italy. Just to take the example of Japan, over 20% of the adult smokers in Japan have stopped smoking and switched into heat-not-burn products, with the lion's share of that, the vast majority of it, being the IQOS product, which has around 20% market share in Japan among all nicotine use. So that's a tremendous success and an example of how, with the proper setup and proper controls, that you can make a big difference in adult smokers while not attracting either former smokers or, especially important, not attracting youth. So we have very good practices, and we're very careful around that, making sure we're focused in on adult smokers. We've been working on this for a long time. You mentioned the investment of over $7 billion. We're very serious about transitioning our entire company around the world, all of the people who smoke our products, all the adult smokers, switching them over into these better choices where you don't have burning and where you have scientific substantiation that there is a vastly lower exposure to the harmful constituents. So this is a big success and something that we hope to keep replicating around the world.
I have some friends who work for the American Lung Association. I'm sure they're not fond of anything that relative to smoking, but I think you would argue that this is a better alternative for all of those people who are smokers, who are smoking cigarettes predominantly, that this, where we hear about the tars and nicotine, this is a nicotine delivery system, and I'm speaking as a layman, you can correct me if I'm saying this wrong, but this would cut down on the damage that a typical cigarette would be doing to a smoker. Is that more or less the gist of it?
Yes, the reduced exposure of the harmful constituents is very significant, and it's a much better choice for adult smokers. Obviously, the best choice is to quit. So we advocate that smokers should try to quit and should quit. But if they do continue to smoke, this is a vastly better choice for them to make. And I think it's in line with a bipartisan approach towards harm reduction. I mean, the statutes that govern how the FDA reviews these products and encourages harm reduction in the area of tobacco control were actually implemented during the Obama administration, and the FDA under the current administration has continued to put into place those practices and have now reviewed these products and are in the process of reviewing other products to determine whether they are consistent with either the protection of public health or even the promotion of public health, which is what they have found in the case of the modified risk tobacco authorization for IQOS that they recently handed down.
Is IQOS currently being sold in the United States, and if not, when does it go on the market?
It is being sold in the United States. As I said, our former parent company has the license to commercialize IQOS in the U.S., and that's Altria with their PM USA tobacco division. And they have it on the market in Atlanta, in Richmond, Virginia, and in Charlotte. And they have said publicly that they plan to roll it out in 4 more areas in the near future. And we're working well with them to share best practices and to make sure that the learnings that we have from having done this in over 60 markets around the world are put into place here in the U.S. And we look forward to seeing this product across the U.S. over time.
Has there been any health studies in the wake of people using this product, and have we learned anything? I mean, because again, it started in Japan and Italy, so I presume that you probably did some follow-up to kind of say what impact that had on the quality of life of the smokers. Are they less congested in their chest and their lungs? Has it shown a health improvement, or have those studies not been done?
Well, we are doing post-market surveillance, meaning we look at a number of different measures in the markets where we launched. And in fact, here in the United States, part of the FDA authorization was for Altria and us to do post-market measures of a number of different things, including whether youth uptake is there, whether former smokers do come back to the product, but also to continue to monitor people who have converted to the product. Now, we have undertaken a very, very comprehensive scientific assessment of these products, and they were part of the submission to the FDA for them to review it for both the pre-market authorization over a year ago and the more recent modified risk tobacco authorization. And those involve things like clinical studies, in vitro, meaning in test tube exposure of cell cultures to the aerosol and seeing whether they mutate or how much irritation they cause, as well as a number of other scientific studies. There's a vast amount of science that's been done on this, and there have been other third parties, government groups that have also reviewed exposure levels and so forth, and have also determined that the amount of harmful constituents in the aerosol and the exposure that people who switch to it completely would get is vastly reduced and matches what our scientists are saying as well.
Not to keep you too long, so can this be sold, or when you go to market, when you come, let's say, to Illinois, do you have to get approval from the state governments one by one, or does the FDA authorization clear the way for it to be sold in the states?
Well, it can be sold essentially everywhere cigarettes are sold, and would not require a separate state authorization. Obviously, there are issues at the state level that are occurring around flavors and so forth. The FDA authorized these products with regular tobacco taste and with menthol, because those are flavors that exist in cigarettes, and they would help current adult smokers switch over to be able to get their similar flavors in the better choice. So right now, the state approach isn't preventing any commercialization. However, flavor bans and so forth, if they're too broad and don't exempt FDA authorized products, could eventually be a problem and a concern on having these products available for adult smokers, and they should be available for them to switch to.
If somebody wants to smoke this, some people, as you well know, are chain smokers. They use the one cigarette to light the next one. This device has to be recharged. The photo we brought up earlier says to be you got a charger there after every use. How long can one smoke this? Can you, in effect, have more than one cigarette? And when you're smoking this, I think you have a tobacco powder in there. How long does one smoke this product? We know how long you smoke a cigarette because it burns down. How long can you smoke this product?
Well, the individual sticks are equivalent to a cigarette each, and they tend to deliver a similar amount of nicotine, a similar amount of taste or flavor, and a similar number of puffs. So the experience is very similar to having a cigarette. You push one of these tobacco sticks into the holder, as you can see on the graphic there, and then you start it, and it'll give you about the same amount of time and or the same amount of puffs, whichever is less, like a cigarette. And then after you're finished, you have to put it back in the charger and let that smaller stick recharge in the larger base. The larger base lasts around 20 cigarettes, or about like a pack of cigarettes. So this is one of the reasons this product is very successful in converting adult smokers, because the experience is more similar to a cigarette. It starts and stops, unlike an e-cigarette where you tend to vape constantly and there's no stop between experiences. The taste, because tobacco is involved, is closer to a cigarette, although different because there's no combustion, there's no burning, and some of the flavor comes from burning. And the whole experience in general tends to be familiar for a smoker, although they have to learn how to use electronics, etc.
Are you a smoker yourself? And if so, have you tried it? And if so, how does the experience compare on a personal basis?
I have used this device, and I do use it occasionally. I'm not a regular everyday smoker, but it's a very satisfying experience. The taste, as I said, is different, but once you fully convert, and it's important people stick with it and fully convert, and once you get used to the taste, actually going back to a cigarette or tasting a cigarette is not a pleasant experience. So it's actually something that people can and do get used to. I can tell you a great number of the senior executives, almost all of them in our company, have switched to this product, those who are smokers.
I know when I was,
so it's very, very
I
popular.
was going to say, when I was a young child, my parents both smoked, and I'd go to my grandmother's house and she would complain about the stink on my clothes. I thought she was exaggerating. Now occasionally we all have that experience where you can smell someone, which I think is one of the distasteful things. Also, aside from health, just the the smell of the smoke on you. Obviously, I presume there's no smell of smoke on those smokers who are using this electronic device.
The smell of the product is vastly reduced, and the ability to smell it on people's clothes and hair and so forth is almost non-existent, because you're not burning. The smell comes from the burning. And so there is a bit of an odor because it's a warmed tobacco. Some people liken it more to baked bread or something like that, because you're warming something as opposed to actually burning it. But the smell is one of the big reasons this product has been successful. In countries like Japan, that is one of the key reasons why people were very interested in it to begin with, and wanted to try it, and found that they could switch to it.
The tobacco people have been vilified for a long time, and I would remind people that the United States actually got on its feet economically because of the growing of tobacco and our ability to sell it. You're the former CFO. You were elevated to the CEO, I believe, in March, if I'm right. So relatively new, but congratulations on that. Just briefly before we close out, obviously you also employ quite a lot of Americans in the United States. Just quickly, how many people more or less work for Philip Morris, and to what extent have you all been impacted, if in any ways, by the COVID-19 virus?
Well, first of all, Joe, I have to point out that, yes, I was the CFO of the PMI larger global organization. I'm actually the CEO of PMI America. There's a global CFO or CEO, Andre Colanzopoulos, so I report to him. I don't want to get on the wrong side of my boss. But yes, this product has been very important for our company. We're now getting almost about a quarter of our revenues from the new products, non-burning products. It's good for our shareholders because it is profitable. It's good for the long-term sustainability of the company. The big problem we've always recognized with our business is the product itself. And so being able to be successful with this product and transition out of cigarettes and into this product has been terrific for our company. We're gaining market share by winning over adult smokers from other companies. So it's good for the adult smokers who switch to it. It's good for the shareholders because of the profitability. And I would argue it's good for society at large because of the reduced harm aspects of this. And we are seeking to work with governments and with other third parties to try to find a solution to one of the big problems in society today, which is the harm that's caused by smoking cigarettes. And I think we're on the right track.
I already kept you longer than I should, but I meant to ask one more question earlier. How does the cost of this compare? That's another thing with all the taxes that have gone up over the years. Smoking used to be inconsequential back in World War II financially. Now it's become fairly expensive. Is this comparable? How does it compare on price for the average smoker?
It depends on different places around the world. In some places, in many places, most places, the tax is actually lower on this product because governments have recognized that it's not a cigarette and it shouldn't be taxed at the same levels as cigarettes. The consumable part, the cigarettes themselves, in most places are slightly less expensive than cigarettes, and the devices have to be purchased, and they range in price from around $50 to $80 depending on the different devices. In the U.S., the consumables are more or less the same as cigarettes. Some states have recognized that with FDA authorization at a modified risk tobacco level, that the taxes should be less, but the federal tax on the consumables in the U.S. is the same as for cigarettes. So in the U.S., it's about the same cost as it would be to smoke regular cigarettes. And other parts of the world, it tends to be slightly less depending on where you are.
Is IQOS an acronym? Does it stand for something, or is that just the name?
It does not stand for anything. We just made the name up. You know how companies do these searches of names to find one that no one else is using, and we came up with this IQOS, although in various places consumers have tried to figure out what it stands for and so forth, but it really isn't an acronym for anything.
Well, Martin King, we appreciate you taking the time, and again, apologies for keeping you longer than I suggested we would, but thanks for filling us in. And I presume if someone is a smoker and wants to, can they buy it online, by the way? Can they go somewhere? If they live in Illinois and they're not yet being sold here, how could they get their hands on one?
I'm afraid they would have to go to one of those places where it is launched, Atlanta or Richmond or Charlotte. But soon we'll hope that it'll be available in additional places. It's not available through the mail or online. We want to make sure we register people properly and have a face-to-face, and we're not doing that, or rather, Altria's not doing that quite yet in the U.S. online. Although you can, of course, do that responsibly online too. We do in some countries sell the devices, certainly after proper age verification and registration to adult smokers, even online. But in the U.S., it's not there yet.
All right. Well, for those who are smoking, at least they can have a healthier smoke than what they are with cigarettes. And Martin King, we appreciate you joining us and sharing this this development. It's hopefully going to help quite a lot of people.
Thank you for having me.